It's hard to believe that they ignore the facts of the previous history of events that have taken place throughout our time. Iran attacks Iraq's Abril with missiles in warning to the U.S. and its allies. 12 ballistic missiles fired on the U.S. consulate by Iran. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman says about the attacks that we do not believe that the U.S. consulate was actually the target, that the facilities are secure and everyone is accounted for. Supposedly, the deal being brokered is to make sure Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon, but at the same time, we're sitting at the round table with the Iranians and the Russians, who are clearly not our allies, and we are getting fired on by Iran. They said the target wasn't the U.S. consulate, but that's where it ended up. The Washington Examiner reported that departments possesses indictable evidence against the Iranians that the Biden administration officials are resisting publicly indicting the men for fear that it could derail their drive for the nuclear deal with Iran currently nearing completion in negotiations in Vienna in Australia. Iran claimed responsibility Sunday for a barrage of 12 ballistic missiles that hit northern Iraq just after midnight, striking several kilometers from a U.S. compound and drawing sharp condemnation from the Iraqi and U.S. capitals. As nuclear talks break down, Iran claims ballistic missile attacks in Iraq. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, have taken responsibility for the ballistic missile attacks in Iraq's northern Kurdish regional capital of Erbil, according to Iran's state media. Elite forces, in a statement released on Sunday, said it targeted the Israeli strategic center in the country, but it was not against the U.S. But Kurdish officials accused the Revolutionary Guard of seeking to use blameless propaganda to justify targeting civilian locations. A taxi driver, Zirian Wazar, said he was in his car near the U.S. consulate when the missile struck at around 1 on Sunday, 2300 GMT on Saturday. Iran says any repetition of attacks by Israel will be met with harsh, decisive, and destructive response. A statement about the deal said supposedly the historic deal will prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Sounds like it's in such array. The U.S. agrees to join talks brokered by the EU, and in the same breath, Russia possesses interim nuclear deal to Iran with the U.S. knowledge. So Russia is brokering a comprehensive agreement between the United States and Iran. Why not eliminate Iran's nuclear program altogether instead of trying to put together a deal that sets limitations on Iran's nuclear program capabilities? The country that has publicly stated threats of terror against the U.S. in the past. I just can't understand how doing deals with the enemy would be of any benefit to the US of A, especially with the country that truly wants the elimination of the US of A. The fact is that Iran's nuclear talks have been suspended as the window closes on this key deal. This is a major threat to the nations. Iran and the United States have had no formal diplomatic relations since April 7th, 1980. Instead, Pakistan serves as Iran's protecting power in the United States, while Switzerland serves as the United States protecting power in Iran. The 2019-2022 Persian Gulf crisis is the ongoing state of heightened military tensions between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America, along with their respective allies in the Persian Gulf region. Iran and Russia are strategic allies from an axis in the Caucasus alongside Armenia. Iran and Russia are also military allies in the conflicts in Syria, Iraq, and partners in Afghanistan and the post-Soviet Central Asia. To this day, China and Iran have developed a friendly economic strategic partnership. In March 2021, Iran and China signed a 25-year cooperation agreement that will strengthen the relations between the two countries and that will include political, strategic, and economic components. Relations between Afghanistan and China have been mostly friendly throughout history, with the trade relations between these regions date back to at least the Han Dynasty. With the profitable Silk Road, China took an active part in the economic reconstruction of Afghanistan in 2013. China continued to provide free assistance to Afghanistan, and Afghan projects with Chinese assistance were advancing steadily. The two countries enjoyed sound cooperation and defense, security, and other areas. There is already a nuclear threat in the world from the countries with nuclear capabilities. The countries that have nuclear capabilities are the USA, Russia, Soviet Union, China, North Korea, United Kingdom, France, India, Pakistan, and Israel. The United States' biggest enemies are China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, as well as Iraq. And yet, Biden is still comfortably in bed with the enemies, seemingly to the United States people's demise. I say this is not as if one was or is more transparent than the next, meaning Biden or Trump, but Trump abandoned Iran's nuclear deal. He said pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal sends a message that the United States no longer makes empty threats. So, in a nutshell, we don't have any business doing deals with the enemy.